Good morning, I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you. Going to talk to you today about you and your business. Got a lot to cover. Do want to mention, though, before we get started here, got a new column over there at HuffingtonPost.com on, Huffington Post. I'm one of their token conservative writers over there. They let me write over there in the politics section on the need for the GOP to have a strategy on Obamacare. And really, right now, all they're doing is harnessing on the angst the American people have about Obamacare, but they really need to develop a strategy on truly combating that. I make some suggestions at HuffingtonPost.com. Check out the politics page. We're going to talk to you about sales and marketing, which is crucial. And I read an interesting story. Our next guest, Robert Barrows, he's, in fact, at robertbarrows.com. That's, Barrows.com, BARROWS.com. Really interesting, story, actually, really like a poem, it used to, essentially is a poem on, the issue of it used to be made in America. Robert, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Kevin.
Glad to have you on. It's an interesting poem. And what compels you to write that?
Well, several years ago, I ran for Congress here in California. And when I would speak about the economy, I would talk about the fact that my shirt was made someplace, my pants were made someplace else, my shoes were made someplace in some other country. And my opponent at the time, who had been in Congress for 25 years, had just about every union in his pocket, and I was trying to figure out how can I make the unions interested in me. So I started thinking about things like a Made in America theme, and when I went to get a website with a Made in America address, at that time just about all the Made in America addresses were taken, and I kind of laughingly said, well, what about it used to be Made in America? That was available, and then I started writing this poem, which starts out the fact that it used to be made in America, it used to be made in this town, it used to be made just down the street, and now they shut that factory down. And it's particularly poignant again because just a couple of days ago there was a story about a Fruit of the Loom plant in Jamestown, Kentucky, which will be laying off 600 workers between now and the end of the year and moving their factory to Honduras at a time when the mood of business is the fact that we can make it here in America and we can make it profitable and the costs are lower and we should be concentrating on manufacturing it here. And they say, well, I think it's time to move to Honduras.
Yeah. And part of it, there's a lot of factors for it. You know, we want to get angry at businesses to do that, but let's face it, we live in a political and economic environment where it's difficult for them not to. Ultimately, consumers are driving the decision-making, and they want stuff that's affordable. And they'll sit there and complain about made in everywhere but the USA, but they're still buying it because, you know, that's what their income can provide. So I put a lot of this blame at the foot of government, making it so difficult for our companies to be competitive.
Oh, you're absolutely right. But the power to fix the situation is really in the hands of the people, because the consumer can go into a store and say, well, should I buy that thing or should I buy something that's made in America? And if enough people say, you know, it's time we brought those jobs back, or the fact that it's made in some other country and the price is cheap, but it's a price I'm not willing to pay, they can say, you know, why don't we just boycott that company for a while? I don't need another pair of jeans. I can do without another shirt. And maybe we'll tell such company, whether it's Walmart or a Target or any other big company that manufactures so much overseas, that says, you know, I'm not going to shop there for a while. And if the public says, hey, power to the people, we've got the power in our hands to compel manufacturers and retailers to start making more of their manufacturing decisions and marketing decisions and purchasing decisions to offer more goods that are made in America. The people can say, you know, I think it's time we started boycotting some of these companies, and we know the economy of making it in Bangladesh for 12 cents an hour, and we know we can't compete with them. But do we have to live with that? The savings are way too dear, and it's a price I'm not willing to pay. Is the way to fix that kind of situation.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Walmart is the single biggest retailer in the world, including in the biggest retailer here in the United States, vast majority of the product made somewhere else, and the reason why is because of the fact that it is more affordable if made somewhere else. I fundamentally think that we put in the blame at the wrong place. Business owners, and I believe business owners' first responsibility is to whoever their stockholders are, the people who, the shareholders of their company. And making a profit is the number one mandate that every one of those companies have. I really believe the pressure should be put on governments. I really do. And, we have the worst regulatory environment of any industrialized country in the world. We have the worst tax environment of any country, any industrialized country in the world. We have the worst litigation environment of virtually any country, be it industrialized or otherwise, when it comes to frivolous lawsuits. And so those are things those are the reasons why businesses do what they do. If, for example, we didn't tax businesses, because, Robert, you and I both know businesses don't pay taxes. Businesses are tax collectors. Businesses, their fixed costs of doing business includes, their inventory, their employees, their taxes. If you eliminated taxes on businesses, that would make those businesses so much more competitive. It would be such a game changer. And no taxes versus cheap wages. I'd say right now the majority of companies are going to chose a no tax environment over cheap wages when it came to manufacturing.
The only time you really get caught short in a situation like this, I took a course in military history back when I was in college, and they talked about the way the German cartels had begun to garner pretty much monopolies on a lot of the strategic materials necessary for war, from aluminum, magnesium, nitrogen, all these kinds of materials. And one of these days we'll find ourselves in a situation where, oh my God, 98% of our apparel is manufactured overseas, and we're at war with these countries. What do we do now? And that kind of economy where you outsource everything just to make a few more dollars profit. If anybody gets to read that poem I wrote called "It Used to Be Made in America," which they can find online at the same name, they'll see that. Basically, the reasons to make it here are quite simple. We live here, we work here, we die here. We have friends and family who care. And those kind of decisions have to weigh in as well. I saw an ad last night for Oral-B. And Oral-B has a campaign that says, "Made in America," except for the products that I use by Oral-B, which is one of their dental floss things, which happens to say made in Ireland, where I assume they're paying lower taxes. Same as many other companies are outsourcing their, let's just say, accounting and corporate structure to other countries where the taxes are low. And the fact that they're not paying taxes in America while they're operating in America is not really very kosher. So there are a lot of things we have to consider. And the problem with leaving it up to government and leaving it up to advanced manufacturing initiatives and things like that is that those things are going to take a lot of time to turn around, if they turn around at all. And the quickest way, again, to repeat what I said earlier, the quickest way for the country to get back on its feet again is for the people to basically boycott brands and products that are not made in America and say, we want you to make that decision to make it here. And we'll buy that as opposed to the stuff that comes from, some other country for 12 cents an hour, who we may or may not be at war with soon.
Yeah, we got to end that on that note. I for one, believe that I'm a big Atlas Shrugged fan, and so I support the entrepreneur looking out for his self-interest and those who invest in his company. Need to put all the pressure on the politicians who create this environment for it to happen. And I don't think we help American business or American consumers by making those businesses less competitive, which is what would happen if they were forced to make those goods here in this country. But it's a kind of debate. We ought to go ahead and have this kind of debate. That's the problem, is we're not having enough of those. Robert Barrows, he's a sales and marketing consultant, and love his work, love his way he thinks, even though I don't always agree with it. And want to encourage you to check him out at Barrows.com, Barrows. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me on.
You bet. You bet. When we come back, much more for you. Do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. While they're like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter. You're listening to The Price of Business.